Well, dude, as the Holy Spirit's just kind of like just simmering in this moment.
I see some emotion.
Dude, I'm like getting choked up just thinking about it because, dude, you think about the fatherless right now and their heart is just so hurt and they view God as this spiteful, well, God can't possibly be real because if he was, he wouldn't have taken my dad, you know? Like, we have friends that just recently lost their dad in a tragic car crash, you know? And like faith gets shattered in those moments, but when you start to sit down with those families, like to hear them come out on the other side and say, well, I can't imagine going through it without God.
That suffering is tough. That's so tough. And to be honest, I don't know. From what I've gathered, God speaks to us in 4 different ways. Our circumstances, other believers, the Bible, and prayer. When I say this book is for 4 men, it's also for the moms. The moms who are raising daughters, so the daughters know what kind of man to look for. For the sons, so she knows how to ensure that the right men are around him, and he knows what kind of man to be. But more importantly, the men that she brings into her life that are gonna help with those kids. That when we move new places, let's pay attention to the things God wants us to learn about that place. The people that we're interacting with, the neighbors that we're around. Like, there is a reason God has you in your place, in your moment, at your time, in your neighborhood. It may not even be about you. Your move may not even be about you.
Come on.
And so we bought a travel trailer and we left Colorado. I know now God is real.
Welcome to So We Said Yes, the podcast where we share real, raw, and redemptive stories about people feeling prompted by God and choosing to say yes. From quiet nudges to bold relocations, dreams and visions, you'll hear firsthand how God is moving on the hearts of families, dreamers, and kingdom builders all over the globe as they feel called to Maury and Williamson County, Tennessee. I'm your host, Dusty Jenkins, and this is where faith meets action and obedience shapes legacy. So if you've been looking for a sign, this might just be it. Let's dive in.
We are back. This is brought to you by Tommy Jaggers. God is on the move, and man, we've got Doug Androsky here. This is so exciting. He's an author, a veteran, a real estate investor. Man, you just recently wrote a whole trilogy, Fathering the Fatherless. I'm just so pumped because I feel like I could go on with the accolades, and to have you sitting in this room with us is awesome, man. I know that your story is just filled with movement and just a calling and pursuing and kind of stepping into what God has put on your life, and we're going to dive deep into that. But man, before we dive into, Tennessee and the book and all those things, like when I first met you, I think you said something like, I've moved 36 times and by the time you were 17, is that right?
That's right, man. And that kind of goes back to the book, and it was 36 times at least, not minimum. And the question I would get is, well, Doug, how do you figure that out? How do you know that? Well, growing up, like I went to school for criminal justice, and I have to do my background check, right? And so I still have the paperwork in my file cabinet. It's at least 36 times, and it's in one town, not in the military.
Oh my goodness, not in the military. That was my next question. I was like, obviously veteran. I'm like, oh, it must be a military family. Nope.
No. I'm the first generation military, and there's a lot of firsts that I can claim. First to join the military, first to get a college degree, first to buy a house, first to get married and have children within marriage, and that's a big deal, right? Being followers of Jesus and whatnot, but yeah, a lot of firsts.
That's amazing, man. Well, and speaking of family, I didn't even mention that you're a father. You've got 3 daughters?
3 girls.
A house full of ladies, got an awesome wife, and I'm just, dude, it's exciting to hear kind of where God's leading you, and when you were moving so many times, like looking back, like how does that shape your perspective of what a home meant? Here you are building this home now with your own family, but comparing that to your childhood 36 times by the time you were 17, tell me about that.
Yeah. So by no means do I write the book from authority. I have no degree in counseling or therapy or social work, and so I can just speculate as to how I was when I was a kid. But knowing what I know now and the impact a father has in the home, and when he when he is not in the home. I can't even imagine. But, you know, there's a guy, and I write about one of the 5 men. He writes about it in the foreword, and he tells a story. It's pretty cool. Like, you got to read the story on the foreword of me throwing out mattresses out of the window. And he has a son a little bit older than I am, and he, for a long time, did not want him to associate with us. And, you know, as a kid, that hurts, right? And so the constant moving, there's no structure, there's no discipline, there's no framework, right, that I write about in the book. And so fast forward, I write about the book. I write about 5 men that God placed in my life at the right moments, at the right time that I needed them. And we can get a little bit more in detail about that if you want.
Dude, well, yeah, I would love to, as we kind of unpack this story a little bit. I mean, so from 17, it sounds like you got involved with the military a little bit. Like, was that immediate, or how did you, and what was your walk with Christ at that point in time in your life? You know, it's like, it sounds like, was your dad not in the picture at all? Or?
Yeah, so at 3, I was in foster care. That's when my biological dad left. And I have absolutely no memory of that. Just the emotional trauma and the weight that comes with that. Mm-hmm. So foster care, I think I was in foster care for about a year, may have been a little bit longer. But nonetheless, when I got back, I met the stepdad. And stepdad and mom were married for a while. And then the house that we lived in the longest is where I met the first man that I write about in the book, Mike. And then shortly after that, my mom and stepdad divorced.
When God invited Tommy Jaggers and his family to Middle Tennessee, he said yes. As a realtor and a founding member of the Healthy Home Network, Tommy believes that finding a home is only part of the journey. He helps families navigate the transition and understand what a healthy home can look like. Avoid common hidden hazards, build local community, and get connected to trusted local resources. His heart is to serve beyond the cell, with wisdom, prayer, relationships, and a genuine desire to see your family thrive here. Reach out to Tommy Jaggers and start your Tennessee journey with confidence.
And then I was probably middle school, early high school, right? And so then no structure, destined for, you know, everything that's the statistics would show about a fatherless home and what could happen, drug abuse, crime, and all that. Thank God I didn't get into drugs. But I was in trouble a lot. And you know, God used the military in tremendous ways. And yeah, I joined at 17. My mom had to sign the papers saying I could do it because I was 17. I wasn't an adult yet. But I needed to do it, and I needed to get that structure, that discipline.
Wow. Dude, so how long were you, and thank you for serving, by the way. I mean, to fight for the freedom to be a part of that is like, dude, I can't even imagine. You know, I feel like I owe you guys and the gals that serve, you know, my life, because it's like, I feel like we take our lives for complacent. You know, it's just so easy to live a complacent life. Like, oh, it's just freedom, like, you know, 4th of July hot dogs. It's like, no, it's a little bit bigger than that, you know. Yeah.
There's some weight, and you know, and with the celebration of the country, the 250th year, it's very important, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
And dude, the battle doesn't end there. Like, I get kind of choked up even just thinking about it. We've helped numerous organizations like American Military Family that rescue these suicidal veterans that come home with, you know, just incredible PTSD and just trauma, and the thoughts of like, man, was this my fault? Could that have been prevented? Like, you know, if I could have been, would have been, you know, all these different things. And it's like, I feel like we're fighting because our government is telling us to, but then at the same time, like, are they taking care of them when they come home? And so I know that there's this tension, so I just wanted to take a minute to like honor those who are still fighting, whether you're active duty or at home still fighting, because it doesn't end, you know, oftentimes when you come home. So
absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, at what point in the military then did you decide, like, where were you living? Like, how did that, I don't want to jump story, but like, where did Middle Tennessee end up on the story for you?
Yeah, so I'll try to fast track for you. So 2000, it would have been 2006, I joined the military, March of 2006. And I was still, so it would have been a junior in high school. But I didn't leave for basic training until I was after high school. And so after high school, went to school in Minnesota for a little bit, and then around 2011, 2012, I deployed overseas to the Middle East, and we're part of the drawdown of Iraq at the time. And then in 2012, I get back, and I go to a church in Minnesota, and I met one of the other 5 that I write about, and he's the whole reason. His name is Dave. He's the whole reason Fathering the Fatherless, in my opinion, exists, because he looked at me and he said, Doug, your purpose and passion in life is fathering the fatherless. And I was like early 20s at the time, and I'm like, okay, cool. What is that? What does that look like? Is it like, do I get paid for it? Like, is it volunteer? And for a long time, I was just spinning my wheels.
And what was your relationship with God like in that season of your life? This was like,
yeah, you kind of mentioned that. So like, if I may go back, Terry, the first guy I was telling you about, he knew me pre-Jesus. The kid throwing mattresses out the window. And then his late wife and he got to see the redemptive work of Jesus in my life. And I think I can say this safely from memory, that she said when she was laying on her bed before she passed, like something about, I know now God is real. I'm like, that just, like, that means a lot. And for them to actually see that transformation in my life. And this was probably 2008, 2009-ish. And so that was, man, that meant everything. That was a lot. And so, sorry, you were getting back to
you meet in Minnesota, Dave. He kind of says you're going to father the fatherless.
Yeah.
And so, because sometimes when you hear those like prophetic moments or someone speaks life, you're like, how do you know this? Like, where is this coming from? Is this straight from the throne room? Is this your brain? Is this God's brain? Like, how do you know?
Yeah.
And so that's why I was curious, because a lot of times when people get those words, they don't have a relationship when that word comes. Like, sure, they may have prayed a prayer here and there, like open their Bible a couple times, but like those prophetic words, I feel like sometimes God is actually like coming through and like speaking directly to your heart, and you're like, whoa, what is this message?
Yeah. So, Dave, I write about him in the book, and you'll see it. And I write about all 5 of these men in the book, and they're throughout. And they make up what I call the shepherd framework. And I'm like, there has to be something for men, and that I'm fast forwarding obviously to now present day, but there's no manual, easy to use reference guide to be a father. We have the Bible, 66 books, thousands of pages. And before we started this, we were talking about listening to podcasts or listening to this, doing this. But what man is going to open up the Bible and say, I know now my answer. It's right here. I mean, some could, and I'm not going to discredit what God can do, because God can do anything through anyone and everyone. But then, like, I'm writing this book as a simple reference guide, saying, just be this. It's a biblical reference, shepherd framework.
Yeah.
And so Dave, if I may, Dave carries a couple of those pillars. And it's the idea that we're, as a man, as a father, you don't have to be all of them, because you can't be. Right. God is the good father.
Come on.
Our default fathers, our past fathers, everyone that has mentored us, those are not good fathers. They may claim to be, and rightfully to some degree they may be, but God is the good father. And I'm not claiming to be perfect.
Right.
But Dave saw something in me, and I write about it in the first E, encourager and nurturer. And then example who inspires potential, the second E. He's seeing the gifts that I have, seeing what I came from, and said, Doug, this is you. This is what you were called to do. And man, it...
And that was in Minnesota?
That was in Minnesota.
Okay.
And in 2012-ish.
And you weren't living, you were like visiting.
I was living, so
okay.
I came back from the military, and I lived on my own. This is where I first bought my own house.
Sure.
And I lived there for about 4 years, but then I moved with him to California.
Okay.
And that's where where my wife and I met each other. And then, long story short, it was about 2012. So 13 years later, I get my real estate license while I'm here in Tennessee. And we'll talk about the story that brought us here. But I get my real estate license here in Tennessee, and the coach is like, Doug, just do what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
I'm like, done. Like, my personality, the way I am, and And I'm like thinking back to Fathering the Fatherless, and I'm like, let's go.
Let's go. Dude, so you meet your wife in California,
Yeah.
and how long did it take until that, like, you felt that call to, like, we're going to Tennessee, and what happened in that moment? Was it a suddenly moment? Was it a gradual thing? Like, how was it for you?
It was a gradual thing, and I do believe that God does audibly speak to people at times, and I was going through some stuff in the past, and I do remember some audible words from, hearing things from Him, but when it came to the move here, that's not what I heard.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just need to take that first step, and I write about that in my
Right.
book around the S, shepherd or spiritual leader. And as a man, you just got to go first. Be the first to pray. Be the first on your knees. Be the first to open up your Bible. And so going first. And so I'm just making these steps. And being a military intelligence, I see patterns. And I see the statistical analysis, and I'm paying attention. And at the time, we were in Colorado, and it was around the end of 2024. And I look at my wife, and her and I are talking, we're praying, and we're like, we need to go. It's just, God, from what I've gathered, God speaks to us in 4 different ways: our circumstances, other believers, the Bible, and prayer. And through our circumstances, I was just seeing, like, this isn't the place for us right now. And so we bought a travel trailer, and we left Colorado. We went to go visit Texas. We came back up here to Tennessee, went back down to Florida. And then, it was February-ish of 2025, where we were kind of getting desperate per se, because we were like 6 months in the trailer with 3 girls, a dog. Like it was a lot.
Yeah.
It's starting to become a lot. But then, as a man, as the father, as the leader of my home, we needed to make a decision, and we couldn't do it any longer. And so, we were looking around, and the wife has family that owns a Campground of America here in Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
And so we're not like foreigners to Tennessee.
Yeah, sure.
And so we had the idea, and obviously there's some benefit to the no income tax. Is it no income tax or sales tax? One of those two things, I forget. But nonetheless, there's an advantage of saving some money by coming here. And so, like, why not? Here we go.
Okay. That's exciting stuff. Man, so gradually been happening. You guys are bouncing around in this trailer, and we're like, we got to find a spot. So she had some family here already. Yeah. The book had already been in motion, or did the book start to come to life once you landed in Tennessee?
I released my 7th, or it would have been technically my 9th episode of my podcast late last night. That's why I messaged you so late.
Yeah. Okay, so you're traveling around in this trailer, and you're like, hey, this isn't working out anymore. We got to find some home. It sounds like you guys had some family here, and so you end up in Tennessee. What you kind of come from this season. You were on the road for 6 months, like. That it kind of feels like it can be a little bit of the wilderness. Like it's exciting, but it's also like, hey, we're forging a day at a time here, But I feel like that's what happens to a lot of families that they feel called to this area, they get here, and then whether the season they came from was the wilderness or they're just entering into the wilderness, they're like, man, I feel like we're headed to the promised land. Like here's this picture perfect Tennessee painting of like-minded, just a quality of lifestyle that people are pursuing right now. I feel like. And then they get here, and it's not exactly what they had pictured in their mind, or God only gave them a little piece of the vision, and they're kind of figuring it out as they go. And so that can lead to, wanting to go back to comfort levels, wanting to go back to, just things that we've done in our past. And so what was that transition like? You get to this campground, you're starting to maybe explore putting roots down in Tennessee and what that looks like. Take me to that kind of thought process in your mind at that time?
Yeah, my mind goes towards, God doesn't have you where He doesn't want you. And so you may think that it's a wasted time. You may think that it's meaningless. But yeah, you just have to endure. You just have to go through it. And so for us, we knew we needed to be somewhere. And when we were praying, this house just came up. And it was a perfect fit. And it was a good neighborhood. And so things started just circumstantially starting aligning with everything. And then being military with the VA and the benefits that come with that, like it was just one thing after another was just adding up to it.
Oh, cool.
And
that
then
kind of ties into the suddenly, maybe. It's
Yeah.
like, because some people do, they're like, I feel like I'm going, but I'm not sure. And the suddenly moments don't happen until you step out in faith, you know?
Yeah. And then it's just, for us, it's being intentional where you're at. Like, I heard it the other day or a while back, like, if you're going to the gas station and pumping gas, God wants you there. For whatever reason it is, he wants you there. Pay attention. Be aware.
This episode of So We Said Yes is brought to you by The Awaken House, a business that believes in faith, legacy, and community, just like the stories we share in this podcast. If you're looking for an amazing coffee shop to meet a friend, a business partner, maybe a new acquaintance, The Awaken House has everything you need, with quiet meeting rooms, creative studios like the one we're doing this podcast in. They have an amazing food truck on site and a beautiful backyard where they encourage families to come and picnic and have time together. Even if you're not here to purchase a coffee, they want you to come and use the space. Community is what The Awaken House is all about. Check them out at theawakenhouse.co. And let's get back to our story today.
Be observant. I write about it in my book too. It's called the Cooper Color. I forget what the last word is, but the Cooper Color idea, where he writes about 3 colors, right? And this is not what I was prepping for, by the way. And so I'm just thinking, I'm like, this is relevant because it's are you aware of your surroundings? Are you overly anxious about your surroundings? Are you just completely oblivious? And I say that to say this, that when we move new places, let's pay attention to the things God wants us to learn about that place. The people that we're interacting with, the neighbors that we're around. Like, there is a reason God has you in your place, in your moment, at your time, in your neighborhood, whatever that may look like. And here's the other thing that hit me just now, by the way. And it comes back to suffering. Someone said it to me back in the day. It may not even be about you. Your move may not even be about you.
Come on.
I'm like, okay, so I just need to be the vessel. I need to just obey, and I just need to do. And and thank God for that, right? Because you read off what I do, but God has been like doing some pretty awesome things through my life and through my family and this community, and up and down the corridor of the Middle Tennessee area. And I'm so excited to get into that.
Dude, I have goosebumps when you said that, because that affirms like when we came out, in the story and because I just kept asking myself like, well, if we had said no, like every single person, even the man behind the cameras, like, oh man, if I had said no if I had said no and stayed in Colorado, like John's life would be completely different. He would have never met a Dusty. He might have met, somebody else. He might have met Doug still, but maybe not Dusty. I don't know how his life would have been different.
Right.
And so it's just cool to see how all those little dots start to connect over time, just by your act of obedience and saying yes in the unknown, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's so cool. You said something else that really made the hairs kind of stand up. Oh yeah, because something you stand for, I think that might be in your book, or something you told us out on the hill the other day. A man's legacy isn't what he builds in himself, it's what he builds in those around him, And so I love that you kind of took that spotlight off of like, hey, it's not really about me saying yes, it's, what about the lives that are being impacted because of my yes?
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's a lot of business owners in this area. And so we plan for business, and we have a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, and we have a 401k. But those things are monetary, and those will go away. Who you are as a man, who you are as a father, who you are as a parent, that lives on. And it's rooted in your children. The most important people in your life are your children, because they're going to carry that legacy on. And I write about, I'm just getting a little bit emotional about that, because it's so true and it's so important. We put so much effort into the business and to making that work. And that's where I go back to my book. It's written for 4 men, and then it has morphed into that, and we can talk about that. The absent father, the present father, the fatherless, and those who claim they had a good enough father, and we already talked about that. But one thing that I think is truly relevant for this neighborhood or this area of Middle Tennessee is the present father. Because there's a lot of fathers that are working long hours, 50, 60 hours a week. And then they come home, but then what's the last thing they may want to do? Do they want to interact with their kids? How many kids do they have at that point? And then they have a wife, and then how do they interact with the wife? And there's just so much there. And then the children get the leftovers, if you will. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so...
And the spouse usually, I've been definitely, man, I was just talking with coffee with John this morning, and it's like, you talk about building businesses and trying to be the provider of your family, and we get as men in these lanes of like, I gotta do.
Yeah.
And then, I homeschool, I work from home. So my kids, thankfully, they do get to be around me often, but is it in a healthy capacity to the fact that like, well, I see my dad, but he's never available.
Yeah.
And then when I see my dad and I want to play with him, but he snaps at me because he's, busy, it's like, are they hearing I'm too busy for you? Are they seeing I'm too busy for you? It's like, so to really kind of weigh that healthy and learn to balance that, man, it's like dealing with this pain in the MRI thing I'm dealing with, it's like, how do you detach from the present and truly be active with them? Like, hey, 30 minutes of undivided attention and like, I'm giving you my all without any side distraction.
Yeah, I have two things for that, right? And I talk about it, and I work from home too, and I have the privilege and benefit of doing that, and not many do, and that's okay, and we can talk through that at some point. But when my girls need my attention, I'm not off limits. We taught them, come put your hand on my leg, wait for my response. And once I know your hand is there, I'm going to look at you. And I'm going to give them the attention. It's not because what I'm doing is more important. They need to know they're important. But I can't give them that unless I know they're there.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so then once they put their hand on my leg, I look at them and I talk to them. I stop what I'm doing and I look at them and I talk to them about it. And the other thing, and I just posted about this, or it's going to be coming out soon on social. When you get home, 5 or 10 minutes, put your phone on the counter. Just put your phone on the counter. Leave it there. Because what your kids are seeing is you on your phone all the time. That's no different than being absent. And you're looking at your phone and you're reacting to your phone and what you're seeing on your phone, but they can't see it. They don't know what's on your phone. And so what they're thinking in their mind, and again, I'm not a clinical psychologist, I'm not a therapist, but in what I've gathered, what are they thinking I'm looking at? That I'm giving this attention and I'm laughing.
It doesn't even
matter. But I'm not laughing at them.
Right.
Or I'm not giving them the attention, I'm laughing at what they're doing.
Right.
That's meaningful.
Right.
And that's where I go back to the shepherd framework. It's like, again, I'm not a good father. I try to be, right? And I try to aspire to those 8 pillars that I write about. But that's also then why we need the community, right? Because you may have the intention, the heart to want to do this when you get home from that long hours. But you have other people helping you hold accountable to that.
Yeah.
I
think the community aspect is huge. Like when we moved here, we didn't have any of that, and it's like you can get isolated in those ways of life where it's like you beat yourself up. Well, I'm failing as a dad, or I'm failing as a husband, or I'm failing as a friend, or I have no friends. Like I just moved to this area, nobody, And so tapping in, and that was one thing, thankfully, the extrovert side of me, you know, and just my connecting ability. I was like, I'm going to just start building community, and I felt like putting invites out to other dads was where to start. And dude, it's just been such a blessing to see other guys come alongside and truly say like, this is what I've needed. Like I had a guy that I met, he was like, dude, I'm in my 40s and I hadn't had a friend in like over 12 years. It's like, I needed this more than you ever could imagine. And I'm like, dude, for me to just be out there and say like, that's all this is. I just like being around people, and most of the people that show up we're just great. We're kindred spirits,
Yeah.
So, dude. I think to pour life into each other and to encourage them, it's like the whole iron sharpens iron thing.
Exactly.
It's like you can quickly forget who God called you to be in an instance of listening to the lies of the enemy and saying, oh, man, maybe I snapped at my kids too much, and now they're ruined for life is the lie you're living in your head.
And that's the thing that I've had this conversation frequently, actually more recently with the wife, and it goes back to that fourth man I told you about, the one that thinks he had a good enough father. This book is not for the prideful. You can't be prideful and read my book, because it's a humility. You are not perfect. Your dad was not perfect, and you need to be okay with that. Because at the end of the day, again, we already talked about it, there's only one perfect father.
Come on.
And you're not it, I'm not it, and your parents weren't, your fathers weren't it. So stop claiming to have it all together.
That's right.
And that's where I if I may, book 2 that I write about is the framework, when it fractures. And it's a really cool illustration. I showed you that on Saturday, where there's that, when those pillars fail, and they will. But that's where we need community, to your point. We need people to help us build it back together and call those things out and to be transparent and be authentic and be real and giving us permission. And I write about it in some of the other like social medias that I have. John Eldridge wrote a book, in 2001, April 2001 it came out, 25 years ago, quarter century. I'm like, that book was great for that time, and it's still great. And it's giving men permission to be men. But one thing that I realized, it's not designed for us to be fathers. And so where's the gap? Like, so you have a generation of men that know how to be men, but then what about being fathers? And so I really truly believe my book is for this next generation, for this next time, for these next men who want to be fathers and want to do it well, and by design, on purpose, not default.
Yeah, dude. Have you been to a Wild at Heart?
No, it's on my list to do.
Dude, you got to, man. Because like speaking of like the relevancy, I went in 2000. I bet it was 16, maybe 17, somewhere in there, to one up in Montana, and to one up in Montana, and dude, it was funny because I was struggling with my view of myself as a father. We only had one child at the time.
Okay.
And I'll never forget, I took a journal with me, and you get a lot of one-on-one time with God at those camps, and you're just out in nature with the journal. And I go to open up the journal, and dude, there was a page in the journal that my daughter had like colored some message on, and it was just the most like simple message, like, I love you,
and
Dad.
You cried.
It was like, yeah, exactly. It was just like, it was what God knew I needed in that moment, and dude, my heart just shattered, because like here I am in this moment of like thinking I'm not doing enough, or I'm not being around enough, or I'm not enough, just the lies. And then here's the sweet little message that my daughter was off coloring some other in her own private life of like just gleaning on how much she loved me and how much. I'm like, man, so I think sometimes we just need those little God winks in life to get through.
And if I may, part of what we do at Fathering the Fatherless is not only being a resource like our books are, but the data behind it. And thank God you have 3 kiddos, right? And thank God they have you, because a third of the nation has a third of the children of the nation in the households don't have a father. 1/3, 33% of the kids in 18 and under in the United States don't have a father in their home, and they don't have those moments. And, that's where I'm getting at. And I say this book is for 4 men. It's also for the moms who are raising daughters, so the daughters know what kind of man to look for. For the sons, so she knows how to ensure that the right men are around him, and he knows what kind of man to be. But more importantly, the men that she brings into her life that are going to help with those kids, right? It's this. Oh man, like it's profound,
dude, and it's so profound. Like this, you're doing some big stuff with even the state of Tennessee, and like, dude, tell me a little bit about what's transpiring. So Father's Day is right around the corner.
Man, I'm excited. So just timing wise, we moved last year. It was about 15 months ago, and I get my real estate license in the October-November timeframe, and then I get that permission. And Fathering the Fatherless came to fruition December of last year, and then through all of this, the book has always been there. The book is part of my life. It's been documented, journaled, right? It's there. And so like how long it took me is irrelevant because it's my whole life in a book. And so fast forward, yeah, the book released on Sunday, 3 books actually, the foundation's moving. But most importantly is I reached out to the mayor of Murray County about a month ago, maybe a little bit more. And I just asked a simple question. Would you sign a proclamation in Murray County that would declare Fathering the Fatherless Day the day before Father's Day every year? And I have the folder. I'll show it to the camera. I don't want to open it because I haven't released it yet. But I will get you a copy of this. It is a vital. This happened Tuesday this week.
Come on, man.
And man, like I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking of this because I reached out to a House representative for our district, and I didn't hear back. And then next thing you know, I see this man walk through the door, Scott Sapecki. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, this is amazing.
So we have the door on Tuesday.
Walked in the door on Tuesday. So we have a mayor, local. Then we have a state representative. And then last week, I met a special coordinator with Marsha Blackburn's office, the U.S. Senate. And so now he came on Tuesday. And so now I had a county mayor sign a proclamation. I had a House representative, and then I had the federal government represented. All in this one room, declaring Fathering the Fatherless Day in Murray County on June 20th this year, the inaugural year, and every year thereafter, the day before Father's Day. To remember the fatherless. Murray County is 43rd out of the 95 counties we have in Tennessee. We are 15th in the state for children being raised in single-parent households. 15th. The top, what would that math be quick? Like top third? Give or take, of the United States. And we're not stopping, man. I meet with one of them tomorrow, and we're going to talk about some future plans. And I'm not going to share about it here, but you know it'll be coming. And I meet with hopefully one of the other ones here soon. There's a lot of what's the word? Motivation and attention and energy behind this. And so I've had these moments since moving here, meeting people, interacting with people, the God winks you alluded to earlier, the God moments where it just has to be. There's no other way. I moved over 36 times before I was 17 in one town. I was destined for the statistical route that would come from a like no father in the home.
Yeah.
One of the 5 men I told you about at that church that I live next to, he said, if anyone's going to make something out of themselves, it's going to be you.
Wow, man.
And man, that was when I was a kid. And that's what we need to be as fathers. We need to pay attention to what's happening in our kids, in their lives, asking questions, not responding. Men want to respond. We want to fix it, and it's good. It's a good thing to fix things. But sometimes we just need to learn to listen.
Yeah.
And listen well and sit with it.
Well, dude, as the Holy Spirit just kind of like just simmering in this moment.
I see some emotion.
Dude, I'm like getting choked up just thinking about it because, dude, you think about the fatherless right now and their heart is just so hurt and they view God as this spiteful, well, God can't possibly be real because if he was, he wouldn't have taken my dad, you know? Like, we have friends that just recently lost their dad in a tragic car crash, you know? And like faith gets shattered in those moments, but when you start to sit down with those families, like to hear them come out on the other side and say, well, I can't imagine going through it without God, but I would love to hear your thoughts, like, or if you were to have a message to the it doesn't matter what age the fatherless is right now, that might just be just angry with God, like, you know, God, you can't possibly be real because none of this would happen in my life if you were real. Yeah. What would that message be from your perspective?
You know, and that suffering is tough. That's so tough. And to be honest, I don't know. And I think that's another important note, that it's okay to not know.
Mm-hmm.
God knows, but I don't. But this is what I would say. When a father is not in the home, or if you didn't have a good father, it's hard to see God as a good father.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to unpack there.
Oh, so much.
And,
it's like a whole another episode for sure.
It so is. And what would a father do? What would God the Father do?
Mm-hmm.
He would comfort.
That's right.
He probably wouldn't speak. He would comfort. And he would just listen. And he would sit there. Right? Because no amount of words I could say would
Right.
mean anything. Because the relationship isn't there.
That's right. I think it does come down to that relationship part. We talked about it in one episode where, even in the garden when Adam and Eve, discovered that they made a mistake and they went and hid, God came and asked, who told you to hide?
Yeah.
Like, he came looking for them, like searching for them. He's like,
And he went to Adam,
yeah,
right?
come on.
He went to the man. The man leads the home. The shepherd framework. Go first, spiritual leader. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And so when we miss that, when we're not the fathers that God designed us to be, that weight is going to the mothers. And now they are carrying a weight they were not designed to be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's real.
Right.
And that's hard. Because again, 1/3 of the nation, those children are being raised by their mother,
Mm-hmm.
who's working to provide,
Mm-hmm.
who's wearing the hat of mother and father, the hats that you and I should be wearing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard one. I definitely commend a lot of these moms that are out there doing it, rocking it because they were in a toxic situation,
Yeah.
and it was likely, sometimes best to
Absolutely.
cut ties, and
Yeah.
there's that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
And, I've met just countless stories of that, but I think
Yeah.
to kind of bring it kind of full circle to the end, I think what I would personally tell the person that maybe is fatherless and struggling with that viewpoint of God the Father being a good father is the relationship side. Religion is very divisional, but God wants to pursue a relationship with you, and he's just looking for your yes. And so if you literally just reach a little bit away, like he's going to reach the rest of the way. He's waiting for you to call out and open a conversation. Ask him those questions. Put those burdens and that heaviness at his feet, because only he can carry it. And yeah, the how and the when and the unpacking of all that is in your own timing. But don't discard that God's not real because these bad things happen. We live in a fallen world, and unfortunately bad things happen in this world, and it's not God orchestrating it,
So you talked about something previously, and I want to come back to it. And the work that you're doing, and you talk about community. I write about that in book 3. That's the study guide for my book series. But what you're doing, you're building something profound here. You're taking a community, a group of people who said yes. They probably didn't have family here. They probably didn't know anyone here. And they're probably lonely, and they don't have anyone. And you're giving them permission, and you're giving them a community to surround themselves around or connect with. And so I really commend you. I really appreciate that about you. And so if I may ask you one question.
Sure.
Through this podcast, and you said episode 8, so this is really cool, and I really appreciate you having me. What's your hope and what's your prayer for Middle Tennessee and for those who are moving here?
Dude, man, that's such a big question, because I've been kind of on that journey of discovering what's my hope anyways, and we've been putting a lot of time in with dads out on this battlefield hill. A lot of people that move to this area come to find out that this was the second to last major battle before the victory happened up in Franklin. And so I think there's a lot of spiritual significance too, when we're out there praying and the cannon, I just picture these cannon blasts going over the area. And so that's really my heart is, since arriving, I've met a lot of families that are just going through it, not only financially, but depression and anxiety just are riddling their thoughts. And so my hope is that almost like an army of dads would rise up and join forces together and fight for each other. There's countless mornings where guys are like, man, I wanted to be there, but it's just, man, I can't get out of the bed right now. And I'm like, that's fine, dude. Like, it's early. Like, we're getting out there at like 5 a.m. Like, there's no pressure on timing whatsoever. But for them to know that there's guys out there every Saturday morning covering them and their family in prayer, like, that's what I want to see, is like, as this magnet just seems to continue to, people keep coming here, I just pray that people experience the love of God from a relational standpoint, and that it's not this, hey, there's a church on every corner, great, but like, it's not about your doctrine versus my doctrine, this theology versus that theology. For me, I just want everybody to just see that God's love is just so pure, and He is the King of Peace. If you are seeking peace, like, that's what my prayer is for Middle Tennessee, is that they would find the peace they're seeking.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
man, that's a good question. No,
Yeah,
thanks for asking that. I don't know that I've ever been asked a question, so I think that's awesome.
Thank you for allowing me to.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate
That's
it.
so cool. So, before we wrap up, I mean, how do people find you? How do they connect you? All that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, so fatheringthefatherless.org.
Okay.
Fatheringthefatherless.org. Again, fatheringthefatherless.org. That has everything we are about.
Sweet.
And the resource tab that we have has my books. It has some of the statistical data that I briefly alluded to today. And then Built to Father on all socials.
Okay.
Built the number 2 Father on all socials. This is the week, and I know this is probably going to launch on the 25th. So this will be 3 weeks after the official launch of our book, but it's exciting. And so this Saturday, or the past Saturday on the 13th, will be at the hidden gem farmers market.
Cool.
But
oh man, we might have to like scoot this up. I feel like the day that this gets signed, like, might be a good day to like, go
well,
live
it's
with
already
your podcast.
signed.
Well,
This is
the 20th,
the official day. That's why I was reaching out, man. Like, it would be cool, but no, this is great, and follow us on all those socials, Built to Father, and there's a lot of exciting things coming, and so if you want to join us, there's the option to do that on our website as well.
Dude, heck yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm just so glad you guys stuck around to the end. If you get value out of these conversations, it doesn't take much to just hit the share button. Drop a comment, like, what part of this episode touched your heart? What spoke to you? What would you encourage the person that is really, what would you say to them that's going through that, those emotions of trying to weigh the differences between not having a father here on earth and trying to build a relationship with the good Father in heaven? And we do this because your support, so please share it with someone possibly moving to Tennessee, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah, man.
Dude, thank you. Yes.